3, 2, 1. Hey people, welcome to another video, another hashtag film stock tryouts. I'm your host or guide through the crazy world that is film stock. If you're new to this is your first time watching. My name's Darren. I'm a South African. I live and work here in China, and I thought that I'd discover excuse me. I thought what I'd do as I go about discovering the wonderful world of film photography, that I'd bring whoever would like to come along on the journey and share my thoughts and results around film photography and film stocks. So here in China, I am really fortunate that I can get my hands on a vast array of film stocks. So I thought that's what I do, is try to get as many as I can, the biggest variety, try them all out, share my thoughts and results on YouTube, on Instagram, Threads, and on 35mmc, so in the spoken and visual form, and also in written form. So yeah, that's what this is, and I'm glad you've come along for the journey. We've just had Christmas, it's come and gone. I'm not the biggest fan of the Christmas season, too much stress, although I did get a whole bunch of film, so I'm super glad about that. I got some Portra 160, I think, Portra 400, I got some Cyberpunk 640T, and a whole bunch of other stocks that I can't remember. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. And my family were not so keen when they were asking what do I want, and I was like, please just get me film. That's all I need is film, food, and a warm bed. Which is not necessary. Obviously I need more than that, but I got the basics covered. So yeah, what's up with my voice? What are we going to be sharing and chatting about today? Let's check it out. Fomapan 400. Black and white film. This is actually re-spooled by a company here in China, Alien Film, and this is easy enough to find throughout the rest of the world. But yeah, it was my first time trying this. So yeah, Fomapan 400. I know there are so many people that have got much better results and much better opinions than I do, but that's good for them. This is my exploration of it and my thoughts and results. And yeah, that's what what else could I say? So you can actually see here, this is actually an old Kodak film canister that they've just re-spooled some Fomapan into and then put their own sticker on, and for that it's a little bit cheaper. So I mean, win-win in that case. And yeah, let's get at it. What are my thoughts, and let's go over some of the results. And yeah, let's if you could connect with me on Instagram or Threads and share your Fomapan shots, that would be really cool, and I'll share them on my Instagram as well and Threads. And while I'm at it, I have a thing at the end of my videos where I highlight people in the photography and creative space community, and maybe if you share some of your stuff, I will choose you to highlight. I'm not a respecter of sex, gender, ethnicity, just any person sharing their stuff, making authentic work. I love it, I dig it, and I want to share it for the rest of the world to see. So yeah, share your stuff with me, and I will try and my best to help it reach a broader audience, whether it's my 129 subscribers here on YouTube, or maybe hopefully in the future it'll be more. That's the cool thing about YouTube, is that things live on here for a long time. So maybe in a couple of years you'll have people discovering you from one of the videos. Anyway, Fomapan 400, enough of my blabbering on. So let's get to more blabbering. Yeah, I love the stock. It is actually, let me just get on my phone because I've got a bit of stuff here that I saved for it. Thoughts. Yeah, so I've got just the basics down and then I'll talk through. So exposure latitude, black and white film has a wider exposure latitude than most color films, and I think it's just because it's it's focusing on highlights and shadows. It's not having to collect the information for colors, even though it does, but it just focuses on darks and lights, and that gives it a wider area to cover, I guess. So this film has a pretty wide exposure latitude, 1 to 2 stops, maybe even 2.5. Yeah, and it renders quite beautifully, I think. Shot it on or in my Yashica diary, which is like a semi-automatic point and shoot, so I can't even control the aperture or the shutter speed. All I can control is ISO, and that's what it is. I shot it at box speed 400, and there are some shots that are actually quite underexposed, and they still came out pretty decent. You'll see some shots. There's 2 shots that were taken in one of our spare bedrooms where the sun was coming through, and you'll see the one I exposed for the shadows and the one I exposed for the highlights, and you'll see a very strong difference in those 2 images. And yeah, that just shows. There are also some that I took at the bottom, the basement of our building, and that was heavily, I think, underexposed. And a little trick that I have on the Yashica diary is that if you open the flash and let it recharge a little bit and then close it, you can take a shot, because it thinks, like, if you open up the flash, it thinks that you're going to use flash, so then it does take the shot even if it's underexposed. Otherwise it wouldn't allow you to shoot if you don't have the flash open, and it seems that it thinks that it's an underexposed shot. So yeah, that's a way to trick the Yashica diary. Yeah, so exposure latitude pretty wide. Obviously it's going to be wider going overexposed than underexposed, although it still, I think, it could handle 1 to 1.5 stops underexposed. It might be able to, depending on the scene and the composition, might be able to handle that quite well. Then sharpness, it's pretty sharp. I mean, you can find quite a decent amount of detail in the images, but on the next point, it's grain. Its grain is quite prevalent across the images, and even though I thought that actually the grain was not so bad initially looking at the images, going over them again, grain is prevalent in every image, although it is actually quite beautiful and has a very, I don't know, interesting and wonderful characteristic to it. It adds a character to the images, so I really, really enjoy the grain. It's quite sharp. I rated it at 4 out of 5 irises for sharpness, and you'll see, I think you'll see why, because it still renders the details, and like in the mountain shots, that's the school that I work at, you still can notice the individual, the shadows and highlights of the trees or the foliage or the grass along the mountain. It's not just a blur of grass. You can still see details in that, even though it's quite grainy, and I think that's why I rated it quite high in sharpness. And then, even though grain is prevalent, it still has a decent clarity to it, and the grain adds character, and I just think it makes it look more beautiful. And then contrast, it is fairly middle to a little bit slightly heavier than mid range for contrast. It is quite contrasty, and I think being a black and white film, some of them you can get where there isn't much contrast. It's just kind of like a grey, and you can't see easily, you can't make out easily the shadows and highlights. But in this film stock, it renders contrast quite beautifully, and yeah, I think it's fairly well contrasted, and yeah, I enjoy the results that I got from this film. Yeah, I just thought I'd share my results with you. Look at this face, so cute. This is my dog Barkley, and I better get 1,000 likes for his face. Just kidding. Yeah, just ending the video in the new location. This is actually my home studio mess at the moment, and I think I'm going to change things up a little bit with the creating or the highlighting of people. I think maybe 2 per video is maybe a little bit too much, so I'm going to change that to 1 and just see how that goes. So with that, I'd love for you to check out this pretty awesome human and incredible photographer. Tony Wu, Instagram and Threads. His handle is @greenhillboss. And yeah, a little bit about Tony. He shared some of his background with me via DM on Instagram, and I've been following him for a while now. He's based in Hong Kong and Guangzhou, excuse me, and he's been making photos since he was 13, which is crazy. When I was 13, I only cared about one thing. You guessed it, cricket. Oh wait, what did you guess? So yeah, Tony's since he began clicking shutters and making pictures, he has loved documenting life around him, and he loves shooting everywhere he goes. He says his favorite place to shoot is everywhere. He takes his camera with him all the time, and he prefers to shoot fully manual, so manual exposure and manual focusing, which that takes a lot of practice and a lot of skill to get right. And he says he's quite adept at nailing focus and shooting in a wide range of styles, all manners, from the hip, run and gun, nailing focus. So yeah, he's obviously had quite a few years of practice. He likes to shoot manually because he wants to control the image exactly according to his vision and what he sees in the picture, and I think that's pretty cool. His favorite theme within photography is reflections, so he loves finding reflective surfaces, mirrors, and he's found some really cool creative reflective areas in and around China and Hong Kong. And yeah, he's heavily influenced by the masters of Magnum, such as Alex Webb, Joel Malewitz, Henri Cartier-Bresson, Martin Parr, Elliot Erwitt, and a whole bunch of others. And he said that he realized that when he looked at their work, that their greatest photos for him are ones that they took and they made within their neighborhoods, within their daily lives, within the areas that they lived in and frequented. And that made him realize that it's really important to document your life around you and what's important and of value to you. So that's what he aims to do. He has a love for photojournalism and documenting the streets, so street photography and documentary photography, and he's just an incredible photographer, prolific, always out shooting. And yeah, you can catch him on Instagram and Threads, chat with him, such a friendly, helpful guy. I also see now that he posted in his stories, he just recently home developed some slide film, so that's also pretty cool and interesting. And yeah, so Tony Wu, check him out, Green Hill Boss, and maybe ask him why his handle is Green Hill Boss. And then yeah, the secret phrase for the week. Barkley, do you want to tell them the secret phrase? Okay. Failure is not final. That's the secret phrase, so put in the video, and I'll be really grateful that you watched the whole video. And as always, just keep making stuff. Cheers guys, hope you have a wonderful New Year's going into 2024. May it be beyond everything that you envisioned. So from Barkley and myself, thanks for watching, and see you next week. Cheers guys.